Buddy, it's Dan Bauer here from SERVPRO, the Southtowns SERVPRO of West Seneca, Lancaster. It is a beautiful-ish day here in Hamburg, New York, and I am very glad to be here for episode 4 of SERVPRO's Awesome Advent. And if you've never seen this before, if you have no idea what the heck you're watching, we're going live here at SERVPRO, the Southtowns, every weekday until Christmas at 10 a.m. to bring a little bit of holiday cheer, I guess I would say, into people's lives. Holiday cheer and inspiration and all sorts of different things. We'll be talking to local nonprofits and kind of highlighting the work that they do so people can get involved. We'll be talking about different sort of inspirational ideas and positive vibes that people can take into their lives and do whatever you want with. You can be a Grinch if you want. If you can be positive, it's all up to you. I'm just here to do my best to bring the positivity out. And I'm going to do that today with a topic that you guys might think is a little boring, but I find very exciting and take very seriously. You've probably heard the phrase yourself that we learn everything we need to know when we're in kindergarten, or even preschool or before that when we're kids, because that's the moment where we kind of learn to be people and be people who are around other people, and we learn how to share and how to be kind, how to manage ourselves. If somebody pushes us on the playground, we learn how we should react, if we should cry, if we should go tattle, if we should, I don't know, trip them over by the swings. You learn kind of how to be yourself when you're young. But I don't know if I totally agree with that, because we don't really learn everything ever. In fact, the thought that we could learn everything is sort of an anomaly. But I digress from that. I want to talk today about the key to success, KEY. And that's to keep educating yourself, which is kind of a stupid little dad joke, but it is true. To be successful, you have to be devoted to learning. And we talked actually in an earlier video about success versus significance, so I'm going to amend that and say the key to significance in life, to being significant to other people and significant in your career, is to keep educating yourself. And we all kind of, we would all say that that's important. We know that that's a way to grow. I'd say a smaller population of us really approach self-education with any degree of intention or seriousness or regularity. And I can totally understand why there's sort of an aversion to self-education and education in general. On one hand, we just like to kick back when we get the chance to kick back. On the other hand, from the age of 6, or even if we're younger, if we have parents who really value education and try to teach us as soon as we kind of come out of the womb, someone else chooses the path that your education is going to follow. From preschool and kindergarten, but up through high school and even college, undergrad, most of us are following a pretty regimented curriculum. We don't have that much choice of what we study or how we study it. We find ourselves learning a great many disparate things that we may or may not remember. Some of those lessons turn out to be invaluable, and some just go up in a puff of smoke as soon as you turn your test in. I remember very well when I was in kindergarten and I learned how to share and be independent. And if I really try, I can remember the quadratic formula. But please don't make me. I absolutely remember nothing of physics class except for the fact that my teacher was a guy named Mr. Slick, and he burnt his retinas looking directly into an eclipse. That's it. It's an entire year of physics gone from my head. Because I didn't really have a choice. I didn't choose to study any of those things. I got told to study from them, and I benefited from having my course laid out for me by experts, but never really learned in all of those years how to teach myself. Closest thing I ever got was learning how to play the guitar. And I only did that because I thought it would make girls like me, and it didn't. So I'm not even going to count it. So if most of us are never taught how to educate ourselves, but we know that we should, we know that we must, how should we approach it? I'd say, like any other major project, the key is to break it down into smaller and more manageable parts. So at SERVPRO, and I'm sure a lot of people say this, but we're always saying it, there's only really one way to eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time. And when it comes to self-education, I mean, there's no greater meal than the sum of human knowledge. You got to break that down. You have to figure out exactly how you're going to approach that. And I would break that down in a really classic way, which is the five W's and an H, which you ironically probably did learn about in grade school and hopefully you remember. Uh, so that's who, what, when, why, where, and how. And I want to start with the what here. If we want to educate ourselves and learn something, what should we learn? And it's kind of a truism that there's more knowledge out there than any of us will ever learn. We won't even encounter it. It's rapidly, exponentially increasing, especially with the internet. I read somewhere actually that the last human being who encountered and retained and could use the sum of recorded human knowledge, at least here in the Western world, was Sir Isaac Newton. And that was back, he passed in 1727. Past him, it's impossible. It's impossible to really know everything. So we have to choose what we learn. We have to be very intentional in choosing what we learn, because if you don't, you're going to become overwhelmed or bored or both. So how do you choose the what? How do you choose what to learn? Well, ideally, you're going to be guided by your short and your long-term goals, right? Maybe you say you dream of traveling to Paris. It might behoove you to learn a little French. Maybe you want to take your boss's job someday. Well, it might behoove you to learn a little bit about leadership. Um, you should also choose to learn things that you enjoy both studying and practicing, and you have a chance to study and practice. It is really almost impossible to excel at something that you don't have fun doing and that you don't have a chance to do. And of course, not every minute of learning is going to be a joyride, but if something is absolute torture to study, then it might not be for you. And past that, you should really make sure that you study things that you can actually employ in your day-to-day life. And I'm not saying that the only things you should study are really mundane material skills, right? There are actually great benefits to studying things that are more abstract and intellectual. And I would say one thing I'm trying right now is Yale has all these music appreciation classes that are online totally for free. Studying something like that, maybe it's not practical, but can open you up to the entire world of classical music. There are incredible aesthetic, material, and spiritual benefits to be had from studying something like that. So I guess what I'm really saying is this. You should not choose what you learn for vanity's sake, or follow a path of learning that is stereotypical, what you think you should do. You should not just learn things because you think that you should learn them. For instance, I get bombarded all the time with ads for brain training apps and language learning apps and all these different apps that are promising me that if I just take a few minutes a day in my spare time, I can learn Spanish or I can improve my short-term memory or something like that. And I'm generally tempted to give those a shot. But I have to remind myself that my mind and my attention are limited resources. And I have to be intentional in how I use them. And I can't just be inspired by how cool I would feel by telling my friends that I learned Mandarin. Doesn't really align with my long-term goals. There's only so much of this to go around. So if you're learning like that, if you're learning, kind of letting vanity be your guide or stereotypes being your guide, you're not really learning what's going to be fulfilling for you. You're learning tricks. And humans don't learn tricks. Dogs learn tricks. Humans, they get knowledge. They get wise. They wise up, to steal an Irish phrase. So that's the what to learn. We know what to learn, and that's the things that we enjoy and the things that we can use. We know why to learn them, because it can help us to achieve our goals and become the people we want to be. The question becomes all of those other W's and H's. Where do we learn? When do we learn? How do we learn? And who do we learn with? I'm going to tackle the where, when, and who next week. But I do want to turn my attention to kind of how we learn, because I think there are some misconceptions here that I had until I was doing my research. You've probably heard of the phrase styles of learning, right? Which is, people supposedly have styles of learning that they learn best in. If you can identify how you learn, then you're going to know how to teach yourself, or what's going to be really effective for you. And there's actually an acronym for the common learning styles, VARK, VARK. And those learning styles are visual, aural, like AURAL, it's in your ears, reading and writing, and then kinesthetic, which is learning by moving and doing. I think it's important to note that this scheme's actually kind of a simplification, by the way. It's a really popular one. You can see why. It's very simple. You can wrap your head around it. It feels true, but there's an entire universe of research out there about how we learn. There's really not that much evidence to support the fact that learning in a specific style is especially helpful for anyone. Still, I think it is an interesting way to think about the fact that there's more than one way to skin a cat when you're learning something. The most obvious method of acquiring new knowledge may not always be the best. So, say you did want to take that trip to Paris. That can be our example. You wanted to improve your knowledge of the French language and the culture before you go. You want to know what to see. If you're a visual learner or you want to learn visually, well, that might mean watching a documentary about Parisian street foods. That's probably what I would do. Or you can make yourself flashcards to remember common phrases. If you're an auditory learner, you might pop in your headphones and try one of those language learning apps out. Try to have a conversation with yourself. If you're somebody who learns best from reading or writing, documenting all of the stuff that you're learning in a journal can be very helpful. You might also leaf through guidebooks in your spare time. And if you're a kinesthetic learner, well, you might be best served by just immersing yourself in the culture when you go, walking around, learning by doing. Indulging each of those learning styles is really important. If you get in your head that there's only one thing you want to learn or one way that you can learn it, you're likely to get bored. But more than that, you're not really going to get that holistic, whole person educational effect that you're looking for, because you're focused on learning pieces of information. You're not engaging on an emotional level in a way that's really going to engage you as a person and get you excited and help you to really grasp what it is you're trying to grasp. And that's the really the joy of learning and educating yourself. And the real reason that I think it's so important is it doesn't just bring information in when you do it right. It opens you up to the rest of the world. It gives you a template, a schema for understanding the rest of the world in a way that is going to enrich your life and kind of deepen your understanding of everything that's out there. Because like we said before, there's no way to know everything, but there's such a depth and a breadth of this universe, everything that's around us, that we can always understand more and learn more and be more a part of the world around us. And that's really the best thing about learning, past being the key to success or significance. It's being a part of the world in a much more real and enjoyable way. So my question for you today is very simple. It's, what are you learning and what do you want to learn? And if you do have something in mind, what are you learning? How are you learning it? And how do you commit yourself to that practice? Because, like I said, that's the best way to grow as a person, is to always have something in front of you that you're trying to learn. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Reminder that if you leave a comment here, you'll be entered into our week 1 drawing, which I will draw on Monday. And if you want to be reminded when we go live, it's very easy. I'll put a form in the comments that you can fill out, and you'll get a text or an email depending on what you put there, just letting you know that we're going live and giving you a link to the video. But yeah, comment, let me know what you are learning, how you're educating yourself, and what's important to you. Why you're dedicated to learning and opening yourself up to stuff like that. So have a good weekend. I'll see you on Monday at 10 a.m. to keep this SERVPRO awesome Advent ball rolling. Until then, have a great day.